Welcome to the Success with Jewelry podcast, where we invite you inside our conversations about business success and marketing for jewelry designers and entrepreneurs.
We're Laryssa and Liz, jewelry marketing experts with a combined 16 years of experience in jewelry marketing and proven track records in helping jewelry brands meet their goals. When you listen to or watch this podcast, you get an intimate and exclusive peek behind the curtain of all the things you wish you could know about earning success in this industry.
Welcome to episode 109. Today, we will be discussing creating an elevator pitch. Stick around for the bonus content where we'll share details about personalizing and practicing your pitch. Hey, Laryssa, let's get into it.
Let's talk about it.
We talked about, I believe last week, we talked about planning. And I think part of having a plan is like knowing your why, knowing your goals, but also a big piece of it is understanding your elevator pitch.
Yes, having a very succinct way of talking about what you do and who you are.
You have a really good elevator pitch.
Thank you. Now I'm like, if you had me say it, I'd probably stumble on it and be all like, I don't know.
Yeah, I remember yours being good because we did an episode where we were like reintroducing ourselves and yours was just so good. And also when we've done other podcasts together and you like come in with like a strong elevator pitch and I think mine's okay, but I think that I'm out of practice. Like the more I am out and about and the more I'm like, you know, doing like sales calls or, discovery calls or things like that, the better I am at it. But I haven't been doing as much of that recently.
That's so true. I think I have to kind of say it a lot to people. And so I don't think about it as much. It just happens.
I used to, and like I used to be out and about more just in general. Like even when I'd be out in Asheville and things like that, like sharing my elevator pitch. Who am I? What do I do? Things like that. And I just don't go out as much.
You know, I'm like very confident sharing it with like jewelry industry people, but if I'm like at a party or something and someone asks me what I do, for some reason I have trouble with it because I feel like it's so niche that people are like, wait, what are you talking about?
I go to a lot of playgrounds and sometimes I do my elevator pitch on the playground. It does feel weird when people are like, "Oh, what do you do?" I'm like, "I'm a mom." No, but what do you do? Oh, here's my elevator pitch,
Right,
But
right.
you should practice that. Sometimes I tell people, like designers, especially if they're getting ready for like a trade show or something, to like at the grocery store. I mean, jewelry, you have to be a little sensitive for security reasons, but like,
Yeah.
talk to people, tell them about it, like practice at Thanksgiving dinner, things like that, because the more you do it, the easier it is.
That's such a good point. Yeah, my husband works in entertainment, so a lot of the things we do, like his friends and stuff, like when you do something not in entertainment, people are like, "What? What? What do you do?"
That's funny. It's kind of like in Asheville, like if you aren't an artist or a maker, it's
Mhm.
kind of like, oh, okay.
Right. Or like in New York, if you don't work in finance, people are like, "What? Finance or
Totally.
advertising?"
But so what is an elevator pitch if you're wondering? I mean, we've made it this far into this episode and you might be like, what is an elevator pitch? An elevator pitch is kind of like a 30-second to 1 minute summary that describes who you are, what you do, and what sets your business apart. And the kind of idea is that like if you were to get in an elevator with somebody and they were like, what do? You would be able to tell them before you get off the elevator.
I would love for this to actually happen. Like you're under pressure, you're in an elevator, someone says, "What do you do?" And you have to figure it out before you get to like the 14th floor.
Oh my gosh, that's like a mini episode of Shark Tank kind of thing.
Mhm. Yeah.
That would be interesting. But yeah, you want to be super clear and concise. And a lot of times, like, it's not just like in person when you're talking, but I had a designer message me that they like applied to this program and they were in their like interview, their Zoom interview. And the first question was like, well, what's your elevator pitch? Or like, tell us about your brand. It's kind of a response to that. And she
Mhm.
wrote to me and she was like, I just feel like I fumbled my way through that because I just wasn't clear on it or I hadn't practiced it.
You got to be ready to say it at any moment.
Mhm. Yep, at networking events, trade shows, meeting potential clients in professional settings. But like again, practicing it out and about in the world, I think is really great too. Um, and having like a strong elevator pitch will lead to future conversations. It'll lead to building relationships. It'll take you further rather than somebody just being like, oh, okay, and walking away.
It's also just such a good internal exercise for yourself to get clarity. Like, even if you never actually used it in the world, you kind of have to do it to know yourself what you're doing.
Right. And it could help you with like writing emails or like
Hmm.
figuring out your social media content. Like it could help lead to a lot more clarity in your business and your marketing.
Hmm.
But so some key elements of the pitch is like first off beginning with like something engaging or relatable to kind of grab the listener's attention. Like, well, I create jewelry that is handcrafted using trash. I don't know. Like looking at my neighbor's trash cans, but like, something that's like, this is what I do, like straightforward, clear. Like, I'm not
Sure.
just like, oh, I'm a jewelry designer. Like, I create jewelry that is meant to be impactful or, something that's kind of a bit stronger than just
And like
there.
piques their curiosity too, because some people they just will cut you off and they won't let you keep talking. But if you can like stop them in their tracks, you have a better chance of like being able to say more.
Yeah, and I think that like we've talked about this before, but like the more niche you are or the more like clear you are about what you're really doing and like who you are, like that sticks in people's brains rather than like inspired by nature. Like I'm inspired by the the Blue Ridge Parkway or something like that. Something super specific and unique stands out more to people.
Definitely. Yeah.
But then after you kind of have that opening line that's more of a hook, you have your core message that clearly states what your brand is about, your products, your values, your aesthetic, and keep kind of honing in or like sharing more about what makes you unique.
Hmm.
And then really like a value proposition, like what differentiates your jewelry or your brand, or like how do you meet the needs of your target customer? Like what makes you stand out from all the other jewelry brands?
I think that's such an important aspect of this and any element of your story you're about that is not often included because that's the thing that most people struggle to figure out.
It's interesting, and I'm sure you feel this way too, Laryssa, but like when I talk to designers, like, and I'm hearing their story and like we talk, we're having a conversation, I can tell what's different about their brand. But like usually, like when they first come in, unless I'm like diving into their website or like looking at their Instagram or like having an extended conversation with them, they just don't know or they aren't sure. Like, oh, well, I just make jewelry, nothing really unique about it. But I'm like, oh, but like you just told me this about your story, and that's interesting and that's very unique.
Yeah, sometimes you need someone else to help pull that out of you to help you recognize what the unique things are. Because if you're telling people, like if what you just said, if you're going around telling people there's nothing special and you just make jewelry, what, why would you expect anyone to care? You're
It
telling
does
them not to care.
It does take practice and mindset though. And I think that we've touched on this in recent episodes, but like, when you're feeling kind of down about what you're doing or like it's hard out there in the world and like cuz I've kind of been in this state where it's just like, oh yeah, I do digital marketing. Like, like that's what I do or whatever. Maybe I could help. We could talk about it. Like that is not selling you on working with me. You know what I mean? And like you need to think about it and come at it from this direction of like even if I'm just talking to this woman at the grocery store, I want them to want to buy my work or want to go to my website or want to find out more.
Yes, such a good point.
Yeah. And I think that another really important piece of the elevator pitch and all of your marketing should have a call to action always and forever, every single piece of marketing. So even an elevator pitch. And it's like, kind of what is the next step? Like, oh, hey, like, I'd love for you to check out my website. I just redesigned it and it will show you like all of the pieces and what inspired them and how to style them. Or, I'd love to like, have coffee with you sometime, or I'd love to connect on social media so we can keep chatting. Make sure that you have kind of a next step at the end of your pitch.
Yeah, I think back in the day when people had business cards more, it would be like, hey, here's my card, like reach out, whatever. I don't know. Maybe this is before the internet even, but that was kind of the next step. But now it's like, oh, take out your phone. I'll show you like my Instagram account. If you want, you can follow me or something like that.
Hmm. Yeah, I think people do sometimes still do business cards. I don't know. I just ordered a bunch before going to New York the last time I went, and I didn't use any of them. So maybe they aren't. But you should always try to grab the other person's business card so that then they become a lead, or you could reach out to them
Yeah,
with more control over it,
totally. Or get
especially if
their
you're at a trade show
IG.
or get
Not
their
everyone
ID.
has business cards, but
Yeah.
or let
How
me
can I
text
follow you?
you. Yeah.
Yeah. How can we stay connected?
I love it.
Okay, so crafting your pitch, which, I wish I could give out homework on this podcast. Like everyone craft your pitch and then send us a video of you doing an elevator pitch. I don't know. If anybody sends us that, I would be so thrilled.
We won't share it publicly, we promise, unless
Don't
you
share.
give us permission to do so.
But yeah, that would be great if people like actually took this episode and crafted a pitch and sent it to us. I would love that so much.
Yeah. I think also like so many of the things you said for that effective elevator pitch, using those points to rethink like an about us page or a brand story also, because what I see a lot is just about us that reads like a cover letter for like a job application or like something like that. That's so boring. I don't
I
know.
know. Here's where I went to college.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
studied under so and so for 10 years. And it's like, I guess if you're in the jewelry industry, maybe that would mean something to you. But for the consumer, they don't really care about that.
Right. So, yeah, this step-by-step process to craft your pitch, like, I mean, this is something that you can use in a lot of areas of your marketing, but like first and foremost is identifying your brand's unique selling points. So, like
Yes.
maybe sustainable materials or your designs are handcrafted in a specific like location, or you use specific materials that are really interesting, or you have a really strong inspiration. So identifying that and writing it down. And then from there, write a simple, straightforward explanation of what you do and who you serve. And then from there, just kind of refine it, make sure it's super clear and concise, practice with people, then practice saying it, just saying it in general, maybe do a voice memo. You want it to feel genuine and you want to practice enough that it just becomes a part of you so that you just say it and it doesn't feel like something like you're reading off of a script.
It might when you practice it, like do it in front of a mirror until it just feels like second nature.
Mhm. Yeah, so practice your pitch, create a pitch. Sorry, I didn't know where to go from there. I lost I lost my train. But
The thing is too, when you're talking about like unique selling points, if this is something that like you're really struggling to come up with, you may want to go back to your business plan. Like you need to be unique. So how can you make things more unique?
yeah, and check in with your why. Like check in with that like core feeling of like why you're doing what you're doing. I find that to be helpful. And also like if you're not sure what makes your brand unique, you might be trying to be kind of more so everything to everyone, or you might be trying to do something a little too general when you really could be leaning into a niche.
Yes.
And don't be afraid to do that. I think that what's standing out to me, because there is, I mean, it is a saturated market. There's a lot of jewelry designers out there. What always stands out to me is somebody who has a really strong vision, like not just with jewelry, with like all art out there, or like all products or all businesses, like anything or anyone with a strong point of view is something that stands out to me. So don't be afraid of that.
Yeah.
All right, listeners, do you have an elevator pitch? Let us know. Visit successwithjewelry.com. And if you love the podcast, we'd love to hear from you. Send us a message or leave us a review. Thanks for being a part of our community.